So where you've got a little bit of space, so just starting with the head, so let it drop right to the side, feel that stretch down here. Roll it gently to the front, really stretch out the neck. Round to the other side and back. As we come around to the side the second time, drop with the shoulder a little bit, so the shoulder and the head a little bit. Bring the shoulders over as you come forward. Bring it up with the other shoulder and stretch it back. This next time, just a little bit deeper, so dropping a bit more from the hips, or the waist rather. Roll it around. Let the back really pull out. And the final one, let it drop down from the hips. And around. If you're anything like me, that's actually going to feel really good because I've done way too many things today. Going the other way, so over to the other side. Front, side, back. Drop it a little bit with the shoulder as well. Curve it to the front, to the side, to the back. Drop from the waist, so a little bit further. And this time from the hips. So deeper fall. Hands on shoulders. Really feel the shoulder blades pulling back. And the other way. Arm across the body, shoulder down. Other side. Rotation of the hips, so really push it out. Elongate it, let the body fall with it. Other way. Knees just gently backwards and forwards, whatever speed you need to go at, so just bending them gently. Gentle rotations in one direction. Other way. Feet apart. Just use your hands to push your knees back, open the hip flexors, and just a gentle side to side motion. Coming from here, just bring the feet around. Just drop forward with your whole body weight. Make sure your weight's on the heels, not the balls of the feet. Bring it over to one leg. And to the other side. And just gently roll it back up. Take 1 minute just to work on anything that's a little bit stiff, a little bit sore. So just whatever exercises you need, just stretch it out. All right, so as I threatened the last week, I am going to start having you direct a little bit more on the Sunday. Now, both Michael and Kaylin came up with some suggestions today, so by default, most of this class is now their problem, but in a good way. So what I want to do is just let them introduce specific exercises, and we'll see how we go. I've just realized for some reason I look really purple in this. I don't know why. Let's change the... apparently I'm just going to have to be very purple. We'll live with that. So, Michael, do you want to... I think you wanted to work on Jukendo more than tongue kendo today?
Yes, certainly initially. And yeah, I've just got some... Hi, Eduardo. Just got a few issues with a foot going on, so I'm going to take it easy that way.
That's okay.
What I was hoping to do was do some Jukendo exercises related to the actual strike, the thrust, and break that down and focus on a couple of things differently. And at the same time, Emily can either join in or review it, or even people could review each other. I'm not sure what will work best. Probably start with Emily just reviewing what we're doing. And so we'll repeat the exercise until she's had a chance to have a look at everybody. So the first one I was going to focus on is once we come to Kamai and strike forward, that we're going from the open or loose arm to the tenuch on the left hand. So just doing strikes, we don't have to move our feet backwards and forwards. We're just focusing on that tenuch. So we'll try and drill that one in first, and then we'll move to some other things to do with where our hands are in the exercise, if that's okay. So we'll do 20 strikes with a tenuch and then back again, but just focusing on what this hand is doing for the moment. And then if we can get that to happen more naturally. So it doesn't have to be fast, just to be consistent and just focusing on that hand. Okay?
Yeah.
So, thank you.
All right.
Okay. So, in your own time.
Very clean, Michael. Very nice. Just remember Zanshin, everyone, so pulling it back strongly as well. Okay. It might be the angle, but for some of you, just be careful with that back elbow. Make sure that it's not coming behind you, that it is still forward of that hip, and that'll actually make the movement from the hip to the heart much easier. The more you've got that drawn back, the more you end up having to curve the angle of your arm around in order to get up there. So you want to actually have that elbow out so it's not getting caught up in your boggle. So make sure this elbow, probably easier if I do it from this angle, so that's it pulled back behind my hip. You want it forward, more forward, so there's more of a gap. So just bring it around a little bit more, and what you'll find going from there to there will be a much more straight line. All right. Otherwise, generally pretty good. Again, Zanshin drawing back is a little bit soft for some of you, but that's probably not what you're focusing on. Yeah, generally pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah. Right, we'll focus on those two. So the next one I want to do is bringing the backhand, the right hand, as straight as possible up to the striking position, which is up around the chest, up around the breast area. We will look at Zanshin more on as we go, but I mean, if you can keep those things in mind, that's great. But I think the main thing I want to focus on is that getting that straight angle as much as possible in this set of 20. Okay, so in your own time, Emily, have you got anything to say about bringing to the
Just what I was saying, which is making sure that elbow is forward. Because the more it is behind your hip, behind your body, the more that angle becomes a curve rather than straight up.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So 20 of those in your own time, bringing the hand as straight as you can to the chest. Ich. Chi. Oh. Rock. Sich. Hut. Ni. Ni. San. Shi. Go. Rock. Sich. Hutch. Go. Ju.
Good. That's looking pretty nice. Yeah.
It's a hard one to tell whether you're doing it correctly or not. Maybe a mirror is about the only way you could do that by yourself, perhaps.
Yeah, and I mean, look, sometimes just having your camera in an angle where you can see exactly what you're doing, even if you're just looking at it later on, will certainly help with making sure that motion is very straight line rather than curved. But generally pretty nice again. Yeah, nothing huge in terms of issues.
Any questions about those exercises?
No?
Okay.
They're all good? All right.
Okay. Okay. The next one, and we can very much focus on our Zanshin with this one, but getting the hand and the rifle butt back to our hip. Now, there's always a bit of question about exactly where that's got to go, but that's my hip bone right there.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going to try and bring it back to. I know I've got a tendency to bring it too far back or too low.
Yeah.
It's probably from Naginata. But
literally grab your hand, find where your hip bone is, give it a good rub, make sure you know exactly where it is. Tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it. Give it a bit of a punch. That's where it comes back to. That's where it starts. A lot of the time we do want to drop lower or come up higher, and we're hitting the rib or down on the thigh, hip. So if you need to, before you start an exercise, just remind yourself exactly where it is, feel it up a little bit, and just remind yourself that this is the point you want to be at.
Yeah. Okay, so in your own time, doing 20 strikes, and with good Zanshin, bring it back to that hip there.
Yeah, making sure that if you do have an actual mokuju, that the butt is ending up between your arm and your body. So it's almost as if you're bracing against it for impact. Obviously, Elio, because you've got just more of a handle, you're not going to get the same feel, but you still want that kind of alignment where it's straight behind. For you, it'll actually be more a case of this right hand will be a little bit higher than normal in order for you to get a straight line. So you may want to actually just pitch down. So a lot of yours, Elio, will actually be more, not horizontal, but slightly pitched up, just because you don't have the drop of the trigger, the toki ball. So for you, you'll probably be aiming more up for your nitatsuita than horizontal, but that should still give you a similar feel. That goes for anyone who doesn't have a mokuju, but I think Elio's on one today.
So in your own time, 20 strikes with good, excellent Zanshin and drawing back to the hip in your own time. Thank you.
Roger, try and relax the shoulders. You're tensing up, so it's altering your angle a little. Good. Nice, Kaylin. Nice, Eduardo. Good, good, Michael. Some really nice, strong strikes and zanshin from you earlier, so that's looking good. Yeah, good. Yeah. Again, occasionally I see a little bit of softness in the drawback. One sensei did explain it to me as it's about 40% power going forward, so 40% of your power there, 60% coming back. So it's actually stronger withdrawal than it is a strike. And I guess the reason behind that is once you've stuck someone in the ribs with a blunt blade, it's a lot harder to get it out. Getting it in is easy. Pulling it out so you can go for the next person requires more strength. So as powerful as your strike is forward, it actually needs to be slightly stronger coming back out. So just remember that it needs to be just as strong, if not a little bit more, coming back to that hip as well. Back to Michael.
So the next one I wanted to look at, and something that I've got a problem with, I don't know how many others do as well, it's something that Simon pointed out, was that I tend to tuck the elbow in, like Emily was talking about before. So I'm going to try, when I do my strikes, to get that elbow out a bit.
Yeah, and make sure that when you're pulling back, you're not withdrawing it back there, because then you have to readjust forward. So right, I'm not sure there's a really good way to describe it, but when you're in Kamae, so if I have it pulled back, that's quite comfy. It's actually going to feel a little bit odd drawing that shoulder forward or that elbow forward. So it should feel a little bit unusual to begin with. Here, that's just kind of relaxed, but then it's behind my body. This requires a little bit more tension, so pulling it forward. So when you come back from here, you need to be thinking about keeping that elbow out still. So still having that tension from being out to the side. There isn't really a good exercise to describe how to make that work. Yeah, you just have to be very aware of the range of motion you've got there. So literally, if you just put your hand on your hip, for most people, that's just going to mean that the elbow is directly behind their body. So just need to tip it forward. Just bring it forward a little bit. And that's where it needs to come back to on the return as well.
Yeah, I can even see it just naturally goes into that position. And I think the pullback actually almost enforces that. It's really hard. So
part of it, part of it too is depending on your body build. If you've got a bit more of a belly, or when you're wearing bogu, like your door is going to do this too, you're going to have more of a curvature. And again, this is one of the reasons the elbow comes out a little bit. If it's back behind, you literally have to curve it around your door and you lose time and power. If you have the elbow out to begin with, even if you have a bit of a curvature in the body, it's still a shorter distance because you're not having to bring it around in order to do it. So yeah, if you do have your armor when you want to practice this one, you'll notice that if you don't have the elbow out, you are going to be circling your door. If you have a bit of a wider body in front of you, again, you'll have a similar feel. You can mitigate that elbow forward. I have a different set of problems, like 2 of them. So it's a case of I'd still have that curve issue, even though I have a little less down here. The only way around it, pitch that elbow forward. You should literally be able to put someone else's mokuju between that gap when you're standing in kamae. So bring it forward, and that helps negate that curvature problem. Okay.
So we'll try 20 strikes, but returning with good zanshin to the hip, but hopefully focusing on that elbow to bring it out as we go. Okay, in your own time.
Eduardo, just be careful. You're not having so much curvature out, but you're having curvature up and around. So you're going a bit more up and then coming into horizontal. It's not big, and part of it's probably exaggerated by the camera angle, but make sure it's straight from there to there and not that little curve over. So you're not coming out, which is good, but you're getting a bit more of a bump into it, which is very much an exaggeration, obviously. But the rest of it, the other direction is good. Yeah. Sorry, I'm talking to two different videos at the moment, so I have to remember you guys are actually over here. That's what I'm watching on. But from the rest of you, or just actually all of you in general, that's looking a lot better. The line was much cleaner from all of you that time, and I could see those few little corrections. Do you feel it makes a bit of a difference when you're focusing on that? Are you finding that's a little bit easier to get that line? Yeah, no, maybe?
It's interesting focusing on that, because I forget, I've left off everything else. I'm just looking at that and I'm just going, it's still not getting there on that elbow. So that's the toughest, I think that's the toughest part of the whole strike. Everything else sort of comes naturally. The tanuch comes pretty naturally, the bring the hand up to the right spot, even bring back to the hip. But that elbow, man, for me, it just wants to go the wrong place. So,
and the thing is, as soon as you put on bogu, you really notice it. Once you've got your door, once you've got your kata on there, you've naturally got an added extra curvature to your body. And that's when you start finding that if you try and go around, you're more likely to end up just jamming your hand or your thumb, the one that doesn't actually have a full kote on. You're going to end up jamming it against the kata, you're going to be ending up jamming it against the himo, and you're going to end up with a very sore backhand. So you need to make sure that opening is there, so you're actually avoiding some of those structures to get up there. It was something that wasn't brought up for quite a long time in my training, and that was really just brought up in one of the seminars where they pointed out all of us were trying to pull it right back. So pulling back with the shoulder blades, which is still good, but it was bringing that elbow out of alignment, and that created that need to curve around the body, which slowed it down. So it's something they don't necessarily mention, but it makes a lot more sense when you do it in boku and you start feeling how much faster it is to get from one point to the other. Literally, best option I can give you is get rid of your mokuju, right hand. Feel like you're into it. Hop, hop. So elbow out. And here, even if you're just looking down, you can see your elbows out from that, from the alignment of your hips. And this will also just help you focus on heart, hip, heart, hip, heart, hip. And you can keep an eye on that elbow at the same time without worrying about the mokuju getting in the way, or your do. But that's the feeling you should be trying for. And part of it too is if you tense up too much in the back shoulders, I mean, you will tense up when you zanshin, but if you tense up too much, natural inclination is to bring the shoulder blades back, and that'll pull that elbow back again as well. This will be coming from most of us who do naginata as well. We're used to trying to pull it out of alignment or pull it behind us to create less area, but it doesn't work with our bogu.
So I think maybe as the last part, then we'll just do 20 more and bringing all those things together as much as we can. Maybe And maybe that is emptying the mind of everything and not worrying about anything and just doing as much as we can or as well as we can in general. So, yeah. So we focused on all the things. So maybe we focus on nothing and just let us do the best we can.
Yep.
20 repeats of just the strike.
20 of your best.
Yep. Thank you.
Good. Good. A lot cleaner from everyone there. So a lot sharper, definitely looking more open, a lot less curvature happening. Yeah, generally really nice. So a good build up, focusing on all those little elements and putting them all together just to make as clean a strike as possible. So that's actually looking really nice. That's good. All right, Michael, I can't remember what other ideas you had for this evening.
That's all I've got.
Oh, that's all? No. In that case, Kaylin had some suggestions, or a suggestion. So I'm not sure if he's come up with a solution as to how to teach it, but we're going to find out. So
Show us your face, Kaylin.
Hello there.
all right. So Kaylin, did you come up with any way of teaching that technique, or do you want us to just talk about what you were discussing with me or with us?
I was considering 3 variations of teaching what Simon mentioned in a post on Jukendo World for people who may not have seen it.
More volume, Kaylin.
Oh, more volume. Let's see. What can I do to make my voice louder? And it already is. Right. Well, there was a post on the Jukendo Legion Facebook page about where Simon was talking about how to use your legs when you're retreating or stepping backwards. In this case, stepping backwards following by stepping forwards. And there are a few examples of things like this. For example, I was thinking of some examples in the kata where you feint a strike, your opponent tries some sort of block, and when they block, you pull back and then strike again. So so in this case, we're thinking about not stepping back in terms of pure defense, but rather stepping back in order to force an opening or of some sort. So it's really kind of an offensive step back. And so it's related to basically that idea of offensive stepping back, which is that keeping a lot of pressure on the back foot even while you step back. We'll see if I can just change my camera angle so you can see my feet.
I'll bring mine down too for a little bit of footwork support.
Right. See. There.
Back a bit.
Yep.
A bit.
Yep. Yeah. How about that? Yes?
Yep.
Good. Good. Yes. So I think what Simon was talking about was avoiding just treating the step back and step forward as completely separate, like this. And I think the idea was that generally you should try and blend them into one movement as much as you can. Even while you are stepping back, you're already thinking about stepping forward. And I think that the best analogy I could come up with it is that your back leg is a bit like a spring, and that even while you're going backwards, it's building up the pressure so that you're, oh, wait a minute, I just have to reposition myself. So you're stepping back, and already while you're here, you're building up pressure that allows you to go forward again. I don't really know how to explain that very well.
Okay. All right. In that case, I'll step in at this point. So part of the technique, so if you're standing forward of where you want to be, so what you'll notice here is that my back foot is a little bit up from the floor. There's a gap, so that's flat. That's where I'm actually keeping it. And so what that's doing is it's putting the pressure on the balls of the foot. It's keeping the calf tense so that I can literally push off just from that foot. So if I took that foot off, so my weight, it's still very centered, but this foot is quite relaxed. This foot is tensed up so that it can move me forward. And even if I move backwards, so pushing off from the front foot, if I keep it kind of in that position, that coiling, that energy, I can move it back again. So coming from forward, back, and then straight back in. So what you can do is start in just basic Khmer, raise up that back heel a little bit, so it's a bit more relaxed, push up from the front foot to go back, make sure that's staying in position, staying tensed, and still kind of pushing forward, so you can come back again. So forward position, back forward, back forward, back forward. And really focusing on powering off that back leg, because the front foot should really just be falling. So even here, though I'm pushing back, when I come forward, the fumikami comes from this foot, or this leg just falling with gravity, or from the back leg going push, that falls, and the back leg comes with it. So simplest exercise, as I said, is starting in position, push back, and then as fast as you can, bring it forward again. Focusing on the left foot, generating the energy. So 1, 2, 3. And that will build up your back calf muscle. If any of you have seen Simon's calf muscles, they are ridiculous. That's where a lot of it comes from, is pushing off from those back calves. And that's going to be the same in Jukendo. So even if we change the footwork around and we're going the other way, so it will be left foot forward, right foot back. So the right heel is slightly up, pressure's on the right of the foot. But I'm not sure how well you can see from this angle, but even from here, my posture is pretty centered. It doesn't move. My balance, my central gravity is still very central. My hips, my shoulders, my feet are all very central. So you need to make sure that you've got that clean posture as well on either side, Jukendo or Jukendo side. And then just focus on that footwork, kind of moving underneath you, so you're not rocking with it. So having said that, let's just work on that footwork for a bit. So pop down your weapon. We'll start on Jukendo side because that's where we were. So left foot behind, right foot forward. And just starting somewhere where you can step back. So step it back and then push it forward. And reset. Step back, push forward. Think about your posture. If you need to, hand on head and stomach to keep them in line. Make sure that back foot isn't angling out too much. It's only 65 degrees. It should be more forward than you get in Naginata, just not as forward as Kendo. And that's how you can have that angle. Good, Kaylin. Nice, Elio. Good, Eduardo. Nice from Roger. Good, Michael. But what you should be feeling is the tension in that back leg, in that left foot. It should feel like it's doing pretty much all the work. So it should be feeling pretty warm by now. All right, give it a bit of a shake out. Give it a bit of a pummel in the calf if you need to. But the posture was nice. The balance was good. I couldn't see everyone's feet, but that's okay. But the actual movement looked very stable. So that's good. Again, this is another reminder of why we have the knees bent. It allows us to make those movements without wearing ourselves out too much, but you also need to make sure you're generating from the feet. So if we change it over to the Juken side, so same exercise, but now we're in the other kamae. So again, make sure that you're, which side do we hold in Juken in? That's it. Right. There we go. Now it's left foot back. So I think I was demonstrating Juken side more than Juken side. So you're going to switch around. It's now the other foot which is generating the power. If you have the ability, you can try and get the fumikomi into, but just worry more about keeping it stable, feeling push off from that back foot. Knees bent. So if you need to bend a little bit more than normal. Good, nice, Roger. Good, Eduardo. Nice, Elio. Good, Kaylin. Good, Michael. All right. So, again, you should be feeling a little bit worked up there. If you need to, bang that calf a little bit. So, taking that on board, you're going to see if you can add the fumikomi in. So we're not going to do it as fast. I'll try and lower the camera again, just a second. Not sure what the lighting will be like from this side. It may very well be terrible. Oh no, you can kind of see it. All right, so if I'm in Jukendo side, so yes, facing that way. So we start forward, so bring it back and come forward. So I'm trying to get that fumikomi on the forward movement. So starting forward, and what you're focusing on here is that with this right foot, pushing you off, all that's happening with the left foot is it's falling. I do a very bad fumikomi. I'm too light in the weight, but it will get louder. And you can see here, I'm not even taking the right foot here to get it. So push it forward. Let it slap down. So you don't want kendo, which is a bit more up. So it's a bit more of an upward motion. You want to keep this leg closer to the ground. So even if all you need to do is just stand somewhere in kamae, lift up the front foot and place it down. But make sure it's your weight coming forward that's making it drop. Then when you're comfortable with that, bring back foot with it. And that's actually going to increase the fumikomi because your weight's now moving with it. So start with just keeping the back foot where it is and letting your weight bring that forward for the fumikomi. Those of you who do kendo, this will be a little bit easier. Then once you've got that stable, bring the back foot with it. Okay, so all in your own time.
I'm going to take it easy, Em, because of my...
Okay, with your feet, that's fine. So Michael, you get to help look at other people too. Good. Nice, Kaylin. Good, Roger. Yeah, nice, Eduardo. Elio, see if you can get that back leg coming in a little bit faster. So try and make sure that back foot is coming in as fast as possible. It's looking pretty good, but it could just do with a bit more snap. Okay, so just a little bit more speed on it. We'll just make it beautiful. There. So switch it around to the other kamae for the other art. And just practice the same thing. So you can do it again, standing in that one position and letting the weight drop over to get the fumikomi clean, and then gradually go into the full movement. Good. Just a couple more and then you can shake it out. Good. All right. Take a break, shake out your legs. So yeah, fumikomi for Jukendo and Tankendo, it's very low, it's very flat. If you have stairs, you can practice basically raising up. I'm gonna have to pretend because I don't actually have a step. Where's something step-like? Okay. Good old cut, just as an imaginary step. So if you imagine this was actually a higher step, I guess you could do it with this.
Are you killing the kata book?
Maybe. It can be. But if you imagine you actually have a step or something a bit higher that's more stable than that. Oh, let's see. Let's change it out. So it's a bit darker here, but the idea is if you're in kamae, it should be a very flat motion. So when I was in Japan doing the first seminar in Yokosuka, I literally got pulled out long in Nuno to go stand by a stairwell and literally have both feet on one floor, and then I'd have to fumikomi up to the next step. So just the front leg basically going back, and back foot would end up pretty much in the air. It's really awkward, but once you've actually got that flat motion, you can do it on a much smaller gradient. So even if you have a slightly distinct difference in height, even like, you know, that much, what it means is that you're making sure your foot isn't going too high up. You can still create that fumikomi. So if you have a slight variation in level somewhere that's stable, you can practice that on a step or just on that changed gradient. But that should help you make sure you're not raising it too high, that your feet are stable, that your hips are stable, and just help the movement a bit more. So yeah, there's a few ways to practice that. And believe me, if the senseis decide they don't like your fumikomi, you're going to be spending all your breaks doing fumikomi. I'm very well aware of that one, as is Nuno, as I said. Okay, so we're about 15 minutes left. Is there any particular exercise or technique people want to look at, or I'll just come up with some things for a bit? Any particular questions?
Yeah, I have. So we were doing those exercises with Michael, right? And so we were building up one step at a time. And one thing that I noticed, well, I already noticed some time ago, that it's a problem that I have. I already had it in Japan. So it's the shime, right? Like many times, yeah, I do this, the art, but because I also have another problem, which is when getting here, being good enough, the shime, so exercise, like stand up. Oh yeah, this is, I have some trouble, especially in Bogu is even worse, but having the right
Position.
being tight. Yes, yes.
Yeah. One of the things when I first started out is my wrist was almost always in the wrong position. So when I went to Japan the first time and I started Jukendo for the first time, after 3 weeks, I was basically wrapping or strapping up this right hand because my wrist was never in the wrong position. And so what was happening is when I'd finish, I'm just going to rotate a bit so you get a bit of a better angle, is when I'd finish a strike, I would actually be underneath. And what you can see there is it actually puts pressure on this wrist because now all power is coming right back into here, into the joint. And so I had to end up strapping it because my position was wrong. You'll get a similar thing if you're above it. You end up getting a sore joint up here because all the power, especially when you're hitting someone, is getting to here and then stopping. The only thing you can do is really just spend some time practicing feeling it coming out flat. Putting on bogu, so putting on your do and kata is probably the best one when you're dealing with Jukendo because it changes everything so much once you've got it on. It's very easy for us to stand here and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and not feel it because we're not having the impact. When you've got your do and your kata on, they're going to put everything out of sync, but it will feel more comfortable in a way because it's already going to bring it out from your body. It'll sit a little bit more sturdily against there because you'll have a bit more gap here on this side than on this side because the right hand will end up on the kata, which is maybe an inch or less out from the door. And so your front hand will be pretty much right on it. There'll be a little bit of a gap between your back breast and the butt of the rifle. So it'll feel a little bit more comfortable. But all I can really get you to do is just focus on making sure that's as straight a line as possible. So even if you end up going slower, see, you can see that's dropped on that one. And so I'm going to have all the pressure building up here. So I'll end up with a sore wrist. Here I've got more of a straight line, so it's going to travel further along. Sorry, as soon as I left my hand up there, it drops. It's going to travel further down here into the back of the arm. And you're wanting to almost cradle it with your bicep if you can. Again, once you get that pushback off someone else, that'll make a big difference because then it's going through your arm, you're absorbing it a bit more, and not all the pressure is in there. The other thing you can do is put the butt of the kensen on a solid surface, whether it's the floor or a wall. So if I'm using, I'm using a window frame here. So I'm now lodged against the window frame. And so if I basically hold it here, check my alignment, take my left hand off, and I'm just going to hold in this position. I've actually taken my left foot off the ground. It's now my right leg and here. And I'll feel where the pressure's going. So all you can really do at that point is kind of just work on alignment, make sure it's not shifting. You may find that loosening up this backhand a little bit, so it's not too firm, or moving it a little bit higher up the tokibu, up the trigger position, or down a bit, may actually help alter that wrist position as well. Because everyone's got different size wrists, hands, fingers. So something solid to lean it against. Make sure this hand is on the front breast over the heart. Make sure that's horizontal. And just feel that position, even just holding it there. And just really feel where it is. So if I shift my hand up a little bit further, again, that changes the angle a little bit. Drop it down. I can raise that up a little bit more. So literally just find a solid surface, place it on it. And if you can, have your camera there just so you can check it. So if you've got a mirror in the house and you can use a wall or use the floor, obviously it's a bit harder because you're on a bit of an angle, and just feel where it's pressing against. So if I drop and push back up, I can kind of feel where it's set up. So putting on bogu, even if it's just the do and kata, will help with that position first off, because most of the time when you do this stuff, you'll be in bogu. If you're doing a lot of your kihon, kata is about the only time we don't tend to use it. And you can do it in bogu if you want to. But put on your do, put on your kata, and just slowly go from hip to heart, hold it there, check that alignment. And then if you've got something you can push against, so if you've got a target dummy at home, that's a great way to feel where that pressure's going. But even just hold it against something stable, hold it in that position, and really feel it in that position too. So again, elbow out forward rather than back, because that's going to create a different kind of pressure. Bring it around. Yeah, and you're just going to have to practice on, I'm afraid. Knowing what you're trying to achieve will help, but get that bogu on. It's repetition and just checking is really the only way to correct that one. It took me a long time to understand what I was doing wrong. And as I said, I ended up with it so badly hurt after 3 weeks of me doing it wrong, that I was wondering whether I could actually continue Jukendo. So yeah, practice, do and kata, something stable to lean it against, and just hold it there. If you've got something you can comfortably hit, just practice it slowly, check your position each time. Don't worry so much about the zanshin coming back. And then just bring it up, check that position. But really what you're trying to achieve, sorry, just gonna put this down, is pretty much this. So that's kind of straight, kind of midway of my arm is on my right nipple. Fist or thumb is on my left nipple. Pretty straight. That's not rising up, which again changes the angle. It's not dropped down, which changes the angle. So if you can feel your arm here, so just coming straight, bring this arm up. Pretend you're being really modest, cover both your nipples. You're out on the beach, you're feeling a bit embarrassed or shy, cover those nipples. That's pretty much it. So if you can cover both, great. But it should feel comfortable, it should feel relaxed. Even if you imagine that you've got the tokibu in here, so it's a little bit open, this should still be fairly straight and aligned. You don't want to drop there, you don't want to raise up here. Similarly, you don't want to be going there or there. So this. So yeah, just, you know, walk around, spend your day going, la, 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 la. You cannot see a thing. Facebook is not going to, you know, take your photo down. Cover them both. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I realized I have this problem because I have long arms.
That will do it too.
It's bad.
All these martial arts are designed for a very specific body shape, style, size, dimension. And if you don't fit it, you have to adjust it. It's not going to be perfect. So the longer your arms are, the more gap you're going to have here between your elbow and the butt of the rifle. But front hand, cover that breast. So the thumb pretty much hitting on the left nipple, right over the heart.
Yeah.
Part of your forearm should be covering the other nipple. And then you want this relatively flat as well. So that this arm ends up nice straight line. That way the power that's being pushed back through the through here, because that's where you'll be on the tockable, that power is going straight down, transferring through, and you've got your arm here which can move with it. So yeah, even if you want to just stand here and go pull it back across the breast line, so that's going to absorb that movement a little bit as well. So if you do a really hard one, this still can absorb the movement, if that makes sense. So that was a really rambly description of what we're trying to work on there. But as I said, you need to make sure that's straight. So the power is projecting as far down your body as possible. You don't want it to stop short.
So Eduardo, if we broke it down even more, would we do an exercise for Tunuch, then the strike, bringing the hand up on the angle, and then the next set that you would practice would be getting that horizontal, or as horizontal as we can in relation to the Mokuju. Is that how you would see it? Yeah, okay. It's
I mean,
we can always practice by ourselves too, if we just focus on each part, perhaps.
I mean, the other thing I'd suggest is even making this the first exercise. Don't have a Mokuju. Cover those nipples. Cover those nipples. And if you're using camera, make sure that back elbow is staying down. Shoulder, sorry. So relax. All you're doing is covering that. If you need to, get a t-shirt that has a line, a horizontal line on it. Grab some tape. Put some elastic around it. Do I have elastic?
Get a Hooters t-shirt.
Gaffer tape.
So here we go. Here's my elastic from when I normally manacle myself together. Oops. Just going to tie a new knot in it because it's got so many now. Currently, I cannot tie a knot. All right. Here we go. So this is along the line of the nipples, which is basically what you're aiming at. So you can always see where your nipples are. It's hidden. It's hidden. It's hidden. If I angle up, no, it's not too bad, but the wider the band, the more you can see it is. So if I'm coming down here, I'm coming over the top. If I'm angling, well, it's a bit hard to see there because this is quite thin. But if you have a wider band across here, I don't know, Tenagui, roll it up a couple of times. So you've got a bit of width. And apparently, can't quite. Okay, that'll have to do. So mostly covered. Again, if I drop too much, angle too much, you'll start seeing more of it. So something like that, just so you make sure you're getting that line. But honestly, mirror, camera, just be really aware of your nipples, I guess.
There should be a whole week for it, awareness.
Well, you know how I was making you bang your hip so you know where it is? That's, I think it's proprioception. So basically, you're getting an awareness of where your body parts are in space. Yep. So banging that hip, that reminds you mentally and physically where it is in relation to the rest of your body. Same thing with nipples. I don't necessarily advise standing there rubbing them, but be aware of where the nipple line is. So that when you're coming across, you can tell that you're covering that line. So it's a t-shirt that's got a band on it, a wide piece of material that's just got a band there. So you can see that you're basically keeping this in the same horizontal line. So yeah, I'm sorry, my suggestions get very weird occasionally, but they do have a practical purpose. If you want to do it naked, go right ahead. I'm more likely to have people complaining about it than you are. So if you want to stand in the bathroom mirror, take your top off and go, okay, am I covering them both? Great. But that, as I said, it's really important to make sure that you're not stopping the line of energy around here, because you'll end up doing yourself a lot of damage further down the track because you're getting repeated pressure and stress on the wrist joint. So straight line, let it travel down, and because of that, it can still move if it needs to. So if you've hit someone, but they've also come in at you, so they're still pushing back on your Kensen and pushing it back here, that arm can still move. If you're up here, there's not a lot of movement. If you're down here, there's not a lot of movement. Here, it's got a lot more horizontal angle to move with. So yeah, all I can say is really, really focus on getting that line correct. It'll cause you a lot less pain down the track. And yeah, all I can say is you just need to cover that horizontal line across the heart line. So whatever technique can come up to do with that, that's great. But you don't need a mokachu for it. And in many ways, it's a little bit easier without, obviously. But you can just see crossed, crossed. And eventually your muscle memory will just kick in on it. So, yeah. So that was me spending about 10 minutes talking about nipples. So there you go. That's how our sessions are rolling at the moment. But yeah. And we have just hit 6 o'clock here. So we've just hit the hour. Kaylin is basically in pitch blue, which is really pretty. Yeah. He's ready for an extra in a horror movie. So next Tuesday, let me know on the feed if there's anything you particularly want to see. Otherwise, we'll probably do just some repetition work, going through the basics, maybe some of the kata. And then if anyone's got suggestions for next Sunday, again, send them through. I may go back to looking at the Jukendo versus Tankendo kata, because we haven't looked at them for a little bit, and they're always good to go over as well. So yeah, any suggestions? As I said, I'm likely to pick on people to come up with a few different exercises or techniques they want to work on. So thank you, Michael and Kayla. That was great. It gave us something to really focus on. It was kind of nice just focusing on those two very basic elements for Jukendo. And as I said, it raised that question from Eduardo, talking about something that is very important, but that I haven't covered really, and probably should have. So yeah, so thank you to all of you. I know that wasn't the most energetic session, but basics obviously is the, you know, the ground element of everything we do. So test it out with a wall, something you can really measure against, and just work on that horizontal line, and make sure that you're not going to create pressure problems down the track. Okay, I've done enough talking, and you've probably sick to death of listening to me, so I'm going to call an end to it there. I don't think we need to do a really big warm down because we didn't move that much. Just make sure those calf muscles are stretched out. Make sure those shoulders are rolled out too. Yeah. All right. So I'll see some of you Tuesday. I'll see hopefully the rest of you Sunday. But I'll see you all online.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Mike. Thanks,
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.